Hello again and welcome to the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. This is a school and it is not a church, and neither are we affiliated with any religious organization. This school is a non-profit, non-denominational religious and scientific research organization dedicated to showing proof of the existence of Yahweh our Elohim and the operation of his eternal purpose, pattern, and plan operating throughout eternity unto this present day. This school was established as a result of a divine vision and revelation that was given unto our founder, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, in the state of Ohio in the year 1931. We were incorporated in the state of California in the year 1958, and we presently hold classes throughout the United States and in various other countries. The Oceanside branch was established in the year 1994. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you the Dean of the Oceanside branch, Dr. Dennis Volpe. Now, in this school, we use the true, correct, and original name and title for the Father, the Word or Son, and the Holy Spirit, which were contained in the original Hebrew text. The true name of our Heavenly Father is Yahweh. It has been improperly substituted by Lord. The true title of the Word or Son is Elohim. It has been improperly substituted by God. And the true name of the Holy Spirit manifested in or out of a physical body is Yahshua. It has been substituted by the improper name of Jesus. Now, Lord and God are titles, they are not names. The Apostle Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, tells us in 1 Corinthians 8:5 that there are Lord's many and God's many. But we now know that each Lord must have a name, and each God must have a name also. Now, Elohim is a title, but unlike the titles of Lord and God, Elohim is a divine title. That means Elohim is the title that our Creator has chosen for himself. Jesus is a name, but it is an erroneous name, and upon a minor investigation on your part into a good dictionary or encyclopedia would prove that neither the Hebrew, the Greek, nor the Latin languages have any characters or letters in their alphabet that would produce the sound that is made by this letter J. Neither was there a letter J in the English language until some 1400 years after the death of the Messiah, which would make such names as Jesus and Jehovah impossible renderings for the name of our Father and his Son. Christ is a title, just like Lord and God. Yahweh, our Heavenly Father, is pure spirit, and in this state he is incomprehensible and inscrutable. He is the ultimate source, substance, limits, and the bounds of everything that exists. Now, we have Yahweh symbolized on this chart as a cloud. Yahweh is not a cloud. He merely chose a cloud to symbolize himself, because a cloud has no particular or descriptive shape and form. Now, we've drawn this cloud all around the edges of this chart so that everything that's on the chart is within the cloud. In like manner, everything in the universe abides within the pure spirit state of Yahweh. Now, Yahweh, knowing that mankind could not perceive of him in this pure spirit state, took on shape and took on form right within himself as Yahweh Elohim. This is the Word or Son, a superincorporeal being. That means having the shape and form of a man, but without flesh and blood. This form can only be seen in divine visions and understood only in divine revelations. Later on, this self-same spirit manifested himself in a physical body and walked the earth plane as Yahshua the Messiah, who the whole world calls Jesus Christ. Now, there is only one name that is given unto our salvation, and we must know that name. So a simple yet intelligent question that we should ask ourselves is, what did they call this man during the time that he walked the earth plane? A further understanding of this name and title may be had by reading the preface to the Holy Name Bible. Also at this school, we teach by the divine pattern of the universe. It is called the divine pattern because it's Yahweh's pattern. After Yahweh led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, he called Moses atop Mount Sinai and showed him the tabernacle pattern in a vision. Yahweh later instructed Moses to build a physical tabernacle in the wilderness, just like the intangible one that he had seen in Mount Sinai. Now the tabernacle pattern is a threefold pattern consisting of a most holy place, a holy place, and a court round about. These three compartments make up the one tabernacle pattern. Now we go about in this school to show proof that everything in the universe is made and operates according to the structure and the function of this threefold tabernacle pattern, and that absolutely nothing escapes the pattern. Now the 10 primary constitutional objectives or aims of the Institute are as follows. First is to help you find and know Yahweh our Elohim as he really is and actually exists. Second is to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua the Messiah, without distinction of race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. Third is to investigate the unexplained spirit law or so-called law of nature and the powers latent in man. Fourth is to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religion, psychology, philosophy, and modern practical and occult science. Fifth is to extirpate current superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. Sixth is to learn, know, and understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages. Seventh is to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons, operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. Eighth is to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith, which was once delivered unto the sons or children of Yahweh. Ninth is to make known that Yahweh from the beginning ordained that there is no other name given among men whereby man can be saved, saving the name of Yahshua the Messiah. And 10th is to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua the Messiah with the hope of immortal glorification in the new earth state. Our watchword is peace, and our slogan is speak the truth. We'll begin this evening with a prayer by Andrea Volpe. We will have a scripture read, which will be John, the 16th chapter, and that will be read by Jerry Geller.
Let us all bow our hearts and our minds. Thank you, Yahshua, for bringing us to class again. We really can't thank you enough for opening our eyes to the truth and making us come here even when we don't feel like coming, and also giving us a heart that would love the truth, because we know this is our only hope of salvation. And also thank you for the brethren that you gave us to love each other, support each other, and hold each other's arms up. In your precious name, let us all say, Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Good evening, class.
Good evening.
Tonight I'll be reading John the 16th chapter from the Holy Name Bible. These things have I spoken unto you, that ye should not be offended. They shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think he doeth Yahweh service. And these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. But these things have I told you, that when the time shall come, ye may remember that I told you of them. And these things I say not unto you at the beginning, because I was with you. But now I go my way to him that hath sent me. And none of you asketh me, whither goest thou? But because I have said these things unto you, sorrow hath filled your hearts. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And when he is come, he will convince the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. And I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them now. Howbeit, when the Spirit of truth is come, he will guide you into all truth, for he shall not speak of himself, but whatever he shall hear, that shall he speak, and he will show you things to come. He shall glorify me, for he shall receive of mine, and shall show it unto you. All things that the Father hath are mine. Therefore said I, that he shall take of mine, and shall show it unto you. A little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while, and ye shall see me, because I go to the Father. Then said some of his disciples among themselves, What is this that he saith unto us? A little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while, and ye shall see me, and because I go to the Father. They said therefore, What is this that he saith? A little while, we cannot tell what he saith. Now Yahshua knew that they were desirous to ask him, and said unto them, Do ye inquire among yourselves of what I said? A little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while, and ye shall see me? Verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. And ye shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned unto joy. A woman, when she is in travail, hath sorrow, but her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembereth no more the anguish for the joy that a man is born into the world. And ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man taketh from you. And in that day ye shall ask me nothing. Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask, and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs, but the time cometh when I shall no more speak to you in Proverbs, but I will show you plainly of the Father. At that day ye shall ask in my name, and say not unto you that I will pray the Father for you. For the Father himself loveth you, because ye have loved me, and have believed that I came out from him. I came forth from the Father, and I am come into the world. Again I leave the world, and go to the Father. His disciples said unto him, Lo, now speaketh thou plainly, and speaketh no proverb. Now we are sure that thou knowest all things, and needest not ask any man. By this we believe that thou camest forth from Yahweh. Yahshua answered them, Do ye now believe? Behold, the hour cometh, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own, and shall leave me alone. And yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. John, the 16th chapter.
Okay, just one quick announcement. For information about the Oceanside class, or for questions arising from an Oceanside class broadcast lecture, please email us at oceansideclassidmr@gmail.com, or leave a voicemail or text message at area code 442-264-7388. Please limit your questions to items directly discussed during one of our lectures, and include the class date and speaker with your question. Most questions will be answered at future classes. And with a great deal of pleasure, at this time I'd like to call on our first speaker, Dr. Linda Volpe.
Class will be Monday and not Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Oh, one other quick announcement. Normally we have classes on Tuesday and Saturday. Our next class, rather than be here Tuesday, will be on Monday. I don't have the date in my head, but it's the next.
It's in 2 days.
It's in 2 days, that's right.
The 14th.
So we'll be seeing you again on Monday rather than Tuesday.
Only.
this time.
Only, that's right.
Mhm.
And then the following class will be Saturday
Right.
as it is
Then
now.
Tuesday.
And then Tuesday, this is only one exception. This
Yeah.
is only the one
For
exception.
this week.
And Linda, hi.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Linda.
Uh,
Don't forget about this.
I'll be using this
oops.
Thank you.
It's really great to be here, and great seeing everyone. And obviously, anybody that tunes into these knows that when we start out, we really don't have anything scripted. We ask that Yahshua open up our heart and mind and speak something through us, whether it be a testimony, whether it be try to impart information. The scripture is loaded up with a lot of things that we could go into. I've kind of been on my mind a little bit is since I've been spending some time with my family, and kind of religion came up, and I don't usually ever really bring religion up for the most part because it usually doesn't go anywhere. And I remember, back in the day, for all of us, we were very zealous to try to impart what we understand to people. And over time, we realized that the Holy Spirit is the one that's doing the teaching, and He is going to open up the hearts and minds of the sons that He's going to quicken and impart information to. So I remember we always quote down here that Dr. Kinley basically said that it's not our responsibility to preach on the street corners, pretty much. So,
That's right.
and
Down to
but
class.
bring them down to class so that
Right.
they can sit and see the charts, see how the thing is set up, have undivided attention for the speakers, and ask questions at the end if you have questions.
Right.
And what's just so amazing about all that, and I'm trying to keep it kind of fundamental. What is it? Fundamental, because we don't know who's watching, whatever. But so as a first speaker, it's my job to kind of foundationally say stuff. So, but the fact that a person needs to come down and be taught what saith Yahweh, and the only one that can know the Father is the Son, and to whoever the Father has given the Son to let him know him, and that's in John, which we could get if we wanted to. But so over the years, you talk to just a lot of people about this gospel, and you see that really it is divinely revealed to a person or not. I mean, you could show as many witnesses as you could think of in every different example that you can think of, and Yahshua's got to open up your heart and mind and understand it. So, and the whole way this whole gospel has always worked is that it was given to Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, and he received it, and you just heard the moderation, which explains a lot of that. But his whole thing was, I'm not like everyone else that says that they had a vision and a revelation. He's like, I want you to ask me to prove it to you. And we all have the testimony when we come into this gospel that we don't even have the questions to ask. Or if we're trying to show off or be smart, we ask these questions that are absolutely so ridiculous, but at the time you think that you're mustering up something on your own, and everyone's just so patient down here to try to let you work through it on your own and to come to an understanding based on witnesses and substance and evidence. And that's how this teaching works. And get me Hebrews. Actually, no. Get me wisdom and knowledge. Is that Isaiah?
33 and 6.
Yeah.
Our scripture readers this evening will be Reba Zahar and myself.
Isaiah 33:6. In wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure.
Right, and wisdom and knowledge is the stability of the times from a physical standpoint also. You know, we talk about all the time how, you know, you research anything that you're entering into from a physical standpoint, any contracts, any purchases of any sort, you're checking everything out and doing all that. And that gives you stability from a physical standpoint to kind of think you're buying the right thing. Usually it's okay, but sometimes there are lemons and all the other things. But at least you feel like you're applying yourself to what you're doing out there. And so from a physical standpoint, we always lean on wisdom and knowledge for stability, you know, and advanced education and all that. So everything, you know, we've come to learn in this gospel that everything physical can be flipped to the spiritual. And so therefore wisdom and knowledge is stability from a spiritual standpoint. And out in the world, there's really not, well, the religion is pretty much set up from the things that I've been exposed to. Religion is pretty much set up, each church kind of has its own twist on things and their own way that they've interpreted things and how they set up their own religions and their congregations and all that kind of thing. And it's never, and Yahshua said, he is the way, the truth, and the life. Mm-hmm. And that there's only one truth. So you would have to try to figure out, well, you know, every religion thinks that they know the truth. Now, I mean, and there's simple reality, like they all preach Jesus, which actually the proper correct name is Yahshua, because he comes in his father's name, Yahweh. And so, so I mean, pretty much any Christian or Christianity type of religion is going to preach Jesus. But the reality of it is, it's not based on any knowledge of any sort or substance and evidence. So if wisdom and knowledge is going to be your stability and strength of salvation, you have to have some information imparted to you and not things that you conjure up, because every single person conjures up their own idea of their creator and what they think or don't think, and based on their interpretations of things like that. And so I'm saying that because my family members, you know, religion was brought up, and one of my family members is agnostic, one goes to one church, one goes to another church, and it was just so interesting, just the way things came out, and they was just like different, you know, like in other words, you know, and I would say to the one that's agnostic, you know, how, you know, you look at this creation, you look at these physical bodies, the intricacies of everything that goes on here, how is that happenstance? How could that, you know, do you just think it just came out of nowhere? You know, I mean, there's like divine intelligence just in everything in this creation. And so, but I mean, just for to understand that, you have to have that revealed to you, because, right, you know, so that's that. And then there's another, the other person was like, kind of, their church was more about feeling good about doing works and that kind of thing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But there's not, I don't even think they really read the Bible or anything. And so, and then the agnostic person's pretty much like, well, the Bible's just a bunch of men coming up with some stuff, yeah, you know. And then and then you would say, well, all through, first of all, this Bible is the revelations of Yahweh Elohim given to mankind, you know. And you would be like, well, how do you prove that? Well, basically because everything goes according to a pattern, and it all follows a specific thread all the way down through. And so you could say, well, these are just men that made up a bunch of stuff. But as we've talked about in prior lectures, everything fits together perfectly. The principles are just right in there, you know. And which would be, first of all, salvation, I'll say that, right all the way down through, all the way threaded through the entire book.
That's right.
From Yahshua the Messiah, who came down to be our salvation, and the thread of all the stories, and they're like so not stories, they're actual events that Yahweh Elohim caused to occur in order to show forth his purpose and that he exists and how he exists, which would be all the stories down through which show forth blood, water, spirit, and 40 that all tie together all the way down through. You know, and if these men all just came up with all this stuff wouldn't tie together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then there's, and all the, everything shows forth the principle of death, burial, resurrection, glorification, which we talk about all the time in this class, and we pull Romans 1:19 and 20. We don't need to get it. People could get it if they want. Out there in TV. But the Romans 1:19. And the leaves fall. And everything looks dead. Zenith, you know, the resurrection. And you look at that, we look at our physical bodies, that we go into bed, we're in a death-like state, because it's known that our sleep is the closest to a death-like state that a person could be in. We're in bed, we're buried in our covers, we sleep, we're dead to the world, we resurrect in the morning from sounds and light and all these things. And then we glorify ourselves by jumping in the shower, eating food, all the stuff that we do. And our bodies are going according to that. The creation's going according to that. The sun is buried under the earth, and it becomes dark. And then the sun resurrects in the morning, early morning, and it, you know, it's a principle of a resurrection of light. And then the glorification when the sun is in its zenith, you know, also likening to Yahshua when he comes back. Well, he's here now, but he's going to outshine the noonday sun. Mm-hmm. So, and we also, you know, Yahshua is analogy to, the sun is an analogy to Yahshua. And so, and then you eat food, and the food is buried in your stomach, and then your body, you know, is doing all its stuff there, and all of a sudden it's resurrected as nutrients and nutrition and energy to all your cells, and that's like the resurrection of, you know, the death. And going one step further, something has to die for us to live, also showing forth the principle of Yahshua. And so we eat things, and you know, things die for us, whether it's a vegetable or a, you know, a hamburger or whatever, and it's resurrected in our system, and it's it gives life to this body. Or you could bury a seed into the ground that's just a dormant seed, and put it in the ground, and all of a sudden something's coming out of the ground,
Right.
and then it starts growing. And then it produces fruit, if it's a fruit type of thing, or flowers, or whatever. And that's the glorification of it. So the whole creation shows forth the principle of death, burial, resurrection, that there's a creator, that everything's going according exactly to his purpose and plan. So that's what all these stories, they're not stories, but all these passages thread through. And so, anyway, so when a person says, "Oh, they're just somebody who made up these stories," basically, and it's just like, but it's easy to prove it just based on when you're showing like the pattern in operation, you know, and then we talk all the time about that. Well, Elohim is the archetype, original pattern of the universe, and Yahweh in pure spirit, and we, in many lectures, probably prior to this one, talk about that Yahweh is pure spirit. He came down, he divested himself of pure spirit, came into a visionary shape and form, and then manifested as a physical body. But these three are one, and we liken that to the H2O being in three states: water, gas, and ice, liquid, gas, and ice, showing forth the same substance in three shapes. And also Yahweh, to make himself known to his creation, took on a shape and form, because we can't discern anything about him in this state.
Mm-hmm.
And so he takes on a shape and form, and then he also, as he did that, he manifested to the elders or whatever that were there at the mount, the tabernacle, showing forth him that he exists the way in the makeup of the tabernacle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that tabernacle is depicted here and broken down, and all the workings of the tabernacle are showing forth Yahshua's purpose on this earth plane, and of course how our Creator exists spiritually, principle-wise, as well as how our body matches this exactly. And so, the altar, which is our stomach, the liver, that would be our kidneys, and everything correlates all the way through, exactly tight. And I remember the first time that I heard that, I was just like blown away. I'm still blown away. When you have something revealed to you for an assurity, you're just like, it never leaves you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I'm sitting there, and I was just like, I wanted to just impart so much, but you really can't, because the words that you can think of to, like, I'm like, well, everything's going according to a pattern, but it's just to explain that we know so much here, and we've been given so much, but you really do need to come down here and learn, because you have to have a foundational understanding of how the thing works,
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just like be throwing out a bunch of stuff to people and expect them to understand it. So, but anyway, so it just was very interesting, and I was like just sitting there, and then my mother was like, oh, well, I'm so glad that you have that to, to believe, and that makes you happy, and and that kind of stuff. And yes, it does make me happy, but it's kind of like, well, that's just your take on it, and everyone else is all gonna meet in the end in the same
Mm-hmm.
place, and we all can think whatever we want and all that. So she didn't say that, but that's kind of what I took out of that. But what was interesting is, we were talking about things. My one of my family members, and I found this like such a piece, and I don't know where it is. If you guys can find it for me, but it's basically, we're not going to have any recollection of this life.
Yeah, that's in Isaiah, the 66th chapter.
It's in Isaiah.
Isn't it back
I
in
wanna
the?
say it's
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
What is it?
What did you say, Jerry?
45,
65
70.
and 17.
65 and 17, maybe?
Yep, because I have it from my notes from the last class.
Oh, you guys said that in the last class?
You
I didn't
just
have a
talked
chance
about
to. Yeah, that's so funny.
Isaiah 65 and,
17.
okay.
Isaiah 65:17. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind.
And I think it might be obviously it's in other places in the book, because the same thread runs through the book.
That's right.
And I'm not sure where they are at this point, but they're in there. And so, when I found that out, like being in this class, I was like, oh, that's just so awesome. I thought it was so encouraging, because who wants to bring the trials and tribulations and sadness and misery? And I'm not saying that we're all like that all the time, but we all suffer from the things of this world, and things that we've maybe done that we're not happy about, and things that have happened to us that you can't shake, and things like that. And it's like, we're not going to have to deal with any of that, and that's just so encouraging to me.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that when I came into class and really understood that, I was just like, that's a gift from
Yeah.
our Creator. And we are going to recognize each other's souls, but not from after the physical, but just spirit bearing witness to spirit, and being a son of Yahweh will be like brethren. You know, so it's not going to be like all alone up there, but we're not going to know in the way that we know people here. And so to me, I find that very encouraging that we don't have to bring anything of this flesh with us. And also, you know, if you have a person that you really care about and you make it and they don't, you know, you're going to be like, oh, like so sad because that person's not there. So it can't be about anything physical. And one of the people, when we were talking about that today, was just like so horrified, you know, about that, and what's all this for, and, you know, all the great memories I've seen and all the beautiful things I've seen in this creation, I'm not going to remember them, and you know, but then we look at it and we're like, I didn't really say too much because it kind of, you have to like just not freak people out too much, you know, and I was just like, and I'm like, well, I go, that's the stuff of this physical is for now, you know, this is the things we have now. They're not going with us. But I didn't say this to her because I tried to lay low on it, but the reality of it basically is that I have not seen nor ear heard what waits for those who love Yahweh and that are a son. So what we have in this physical creation, going back to Romans 1:19 and 20, is just a little type and shadow the awesomeness of a great vacation and the beautiful scenery, or a great meal, or anything that you just so enjoy. You know, there's a spiritual counterpart. If you have that here and you have that enjoyment here, you're going to have it spiritually in eternity. And you know, and then they were just like, can't even wrap their brain around eternity, nor can I really. But I do know that Yahweh is eternal. And it says right in there, there's something awaiting the sons, you know, if we endure to the end. That's right. And then scripturally, you know, if we only have this life, we are most miserable. And, you know, and we have it all good. None of us are complaining compared to a lot of the things that go on in this world. But it's still a temporary thing with bodies that are falling apart and people that you love dying, and you know, there's a lot of sadness, you know, that goes on here. So this is our, and then we talk about all the time how, you know, this, I'll just go back for a second. The Bible is broken down into law, prophet, and fulfillment. And the law is the first 5 books of the Bible, and it's shown on this chart here. And the law, basically, it says in there, is for our example. And so the things that went on back here and that they went through is the same thing that we're going through, just at a later time period, basically, even though time is, you know, not what we think either. But we liken this creation to the children of Israel were in bondage to Pharaoh. Well, we can go back real quick. The children of Israel were in Canaan's land, in basically their inheritance area, and Yahweh caused famine to come on the land, where they had to come out of here and go into Egypt because there was food there for them. There's a lot of story about it. You can go in and read it. And so over time, and at first they were fine here, but over time the pharaohs had changed hands, and they started to enslave them and make them work for their treasure cities and build their treasure cities. And so basically would be, so this darkness on this chart is pretty much the darkness that we're in this creation. You know, even though we're in light, we're in darkness. And darkness depicts lack of knowledge. And so, and because it's in there that light is knowledge and synonymous with understanding, you know? And so when we're in this creation, so this being our example, this is the creation that we're in now, and we're in darkness, and we're in bondage to the mystery of iniquity over here, because there's two mysteries going on in operation. There's Yahshua, the spirit of life. There's the mystery of iniquity, death, father of lies, all the things that he's doing in this earth plane. And we know that he, if you look in Revelations, the 12th chapter, he was an angel above the angels in heaven, and there was a war in heaven, and he was cast to this earth plane, and this is his ground of torment, basically, to the people of this, woe unto the inhabitants of this earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he knows he has a short time, so his job is to take as many souls to the lake with him as he can. And so that's why this whole thing is set up, because Yahshua is redeeming us from this bondage if we be a son. And so when you're in class and you're dead and buried, and you start to, dead and buried meaning don't have knowledge of anything other than physical, or your theories, concepts, and opinions of what you think religion is, you're in darkness. And as you start understanding things about Yahweh, you're being resurrected and brought up out of Egypt from a principle standpoint.
Yep.
And so we're being led by the cloud, which is Yahshua, leading us up out of bondage and darkness. But we talk about the fact that when the children of Israel came up out of here and they saw the salvation of Yahweh, and they were just so happy and singing the song and the whole thing, they were like, okay, we're getting our inheritance now. But no, they did not. They were in the wilderness for 40 years for unbelief and disobedience, basically. Yeah. So this earth plane, we're like in this class, we're in this earth plane. Before we come into class, we're in total darkness about our Creator, of anything about Him, and we're resurrected in our heart and mind, but we're still in the wilderness. And so this is where we reside in this earth plane, and basically the Canaans, and also, so eventually the people that were put in Canaan or in the wilderness died off. The first through, pardon me?
Right.
Yeah, and the first its one son, which was Israel, which was all the people, died off in the wilderness, and only like 3 came over, received an inheritance, showing forth the principle of being born again to receive an inheritance. And so they had to come all the way out of basically their inheritance to come all the way down to here to be put into bondage to the mystery of iniquity, so that they could see the resurrection and the salvation that Yahweh had for them. But then when He resurrected and they saw that salvation, they were still here. And they didn't get this for quite a while. So that's kind of what we go through in this creation. And but you look at the thing too, like we talk about all the time too, that once the mystery of iniquity was cast out of heaven, he can no longer get through this veil back into heaven, back into the most holy place. This is the example of it. But us, this lines up, this holy place lines up to this place. So we are in principle standpoint, we are in this holy place, and we're able to see through this veil up into the most holy place. So that's by revelation that you understand the things that are contained up here. So that's the process of which you receive, an inheritance. So anyways, it made me think about a lot of things, like how so blessed and to know something, you know?
Right.
And I just felt kind of helpless because I was like, I would love to just go on. I could explain, I could talk to them for hours, and you'd want to, but they'll be just like, really, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm just, you know, I know all of us that have come down here and had things revealed to us are just so thankful and appreciative that Yahshua opened up our hearts to understand it and to pick us out of the world, to bring us down here to give us an understanding. And so that's why we do these videos, because we want to impart what we understand. And, you know, I'm not oriented teacher-wise. I'm not like a teacher like some of the people in here, but we all have something that he's shown us that we can stand stable on.
Right.
Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. So I was thinking about that, and then I also just wrote a little sidebar. I was driving by some church on the way to somewhere, and it's like the thing on their billboard was searching. You kind of like searching. We have the answer, kind of thing. And I was just like, no, Yahshua is the only one that has the answer and knows anything about himself to impart to anybody. And so everyone out there is searching for something and wants to find something, but unless the Son reveal it to you and quicken your heart and understanding, or quicken your heart and mind with understanding, you're not going to understand it. And we all have testimonies that we've sat in here, and things, they don't come right away sometimes, you know, and you sit here and you think you understand something, and then all of a sudden another layer of it is revealed to you, and you're just like, wow, you know. And so there's always like learning and foundational things build upon until you're, you know, Yahweh is infinite, first of all. So you can never even understand like even a thimble probably of what there is to understand, which is why we're going to be learning in ages to come. But it's not us learning, because our brains wouldn't be able to even handle such a thing. So it's him doing all the work. And I just was sitting there and I just like, oh, I wish I could like make them see stuff, but you know, there's nothing you can really do other than just, you know, try to manifest what Yahshua would want you to manifest, and be patient, and, you know, don't push stuff on people. And because that's another thing, you know, like religion, people are so turned off by religion because it's just like, you know, it's like their vocation to just like convert everyone. And that's so not what we're about. And, you know, just if you want to come to class and learn or watch on YouTube, it's like there's infinite knowledge down here, and every speaker has just a different way to bring something out. It's the same thread, the same principles, but just a different witness or a different manifestation to show forth Yahweh and his purpose. And so I'm just thankful that he, like the prayer was, thank you for bringing us down here and showing us the truth, and, you know, giving us a heart to want to know the truth. And yeah, and so I mean, there's a lot in John that I could get into, but I guess at this point I'm going to yield the floor, and I'm just in awe all the time of just, you know, how much Yahshua has revealed to his sons already. Just the stuff that just comes off this floor just is flooring. Really. And so anyways, it's a privilege to be here, and if you can come to a class, it's really to your advantage, and it's well worth your time. And I used to always think about this too, and the fact that, you know, what more is worth your time than knowing your Creator?
Right.
You know, I mean, what else? What are you going to be doing? Sitting around? Okay, yeah, we're lazy. We don't feel like doing it, or we don't whatever. But your Creator is eternal, and you know, we're on this earth plane for such a short period of time, even if you have a long life. And what are you going to do after that? You know, and you know, you need to focus. You know, and going back to with this creation, I mean, to be healthy, you need to exercise. You know, so our brain needs to be exercised and put where it needs to go so that it can get stronger and withstand more stamina. You know, exercise from a physical standpoint yields muscles, more energy, you know, so everyone would want to do that. But you need that from a physical standpoint, I mean a spiritual standpoint. And we talk all the time about, you know, these are like tables of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And which we all need meals from a physical standpoint, showing forth meals, spiritual meals. And we always need to eat physically, of course, and we need to do that spiritually. And being in this gospel, in this class, it's like, it's substance and evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, yeah, one thing too, I just remembered the last thing I wanted to say. All right, give me Hebrews 11:1, just real quick. Because that's like so important. Because, you know, the world is like, oh, you have to have faith. You know, you have to have faith in this and that. But this is what real faith is. 11:1, please, of Hebrews.
Hebrews.
Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Okay, faith is substance and evidence. And when I like heard that read, I was just like, wow, faith is substance and evidence. So showing forth, and for the thing, substance of the things hoped for. In other words, what are we hoping for? Salvation, you know? So faith is substance, and then it says, and the evidence of things not seen. But we talk about all the time how in the Romans 1:19-20 that the physical shows forth the spiritual. So that's evidence of things not seen, because if you have the principles and you understand how Yahweh has set the thing up, it shows forth a spiritual counterpart in itself. And so substance and evidence is provided in this class so that you can have faith that you can stand on based on witnesses that you can never get. You never run out of witnesses in here to show for. I mean,
Right.
never. And so, and it's the evidence of things not seen, because we can't see spiritual things with our finite senses. We always talk about, you know, a physical seeing, hearing, tasting, feeling, nothing. There's no way to know anything spiritual unless it's broken down by your Creator to show you principles that make you know that it's real. And that's how He shows Himself to mankind, His chosen of mankind. And then it says, so anyways, 11:1, and then 11:6, but without faith it is impossible to please Him.
Right.
So you can't please Yahweh on your own,
Right.
because you can't give yourself substance and evidence, because He's got to reveal that to you. And so, and you cannot please Him. So you think you have faith, and you're like out there trying to get converts and all the things, you know, doing all the things you think. But without faith, which is substance and evidence, you're not going to please Him, nor can you learn anything on your own. So, and then it says, for he that cometh to Yahweh must believe that He is.
Right.
Well, how do you believe something without substance and evidence? Because from a physical standpoint, you have to have your witnesses to believe the thing is true, or believe you're not getting screwed over, or believe that person, you know, you don't just believe a person without seeing manifest, you know, or witnesses to the fact that you can trust them and that they have your good interest in heart. So, at heart, I mean. So, from everything, you can look at everything physical and know that it's, you know, that's what it's showing forth. So, you're not going to believe that Yahweh is, and then it says, for he that cometh to Yahweh must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. Now, first of all, we can't diligently do anything without Yahshua the Messiah doing it for us, but we still have to present ourselves a living sacrifice in order for the thing to take place. And so we can't even believe that Yahweh exists unless we have substance and evidence that He has to show us. And so the world thinks, you know, oh, you just have faith, brother. And you have faith, but it's not, there's no substance there, and it's very teetery, and it's not backed up by anything.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say, and then I'm down, is that one of the people in the conversation said that, yeah, their church is set up that it's kind of based on works. you know, and all the good deeds you can do and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not substance and evidence based on knowledge. But also the fact that they can't really reconcile grace. You know, it's an unmerited gift, and you can't work up on your salvation because grace is an unmerited reward or gift. And so even that person was like, yeah, and they can't really reconcile grace because they're saying that we need to do all these things, and yet you could do everything that they say that you can do or should do, and you're like, it's still a crapshoot because it's about grace. You know, and that's the confusion out there. You know, and they're trying to work up on things because they don't know what else to do. And there's nothing wrong with doing help and all that kind of stuff, but it's unmerited reward and gift from your Creator. And all He's saying is come down here and learn of Him, and He will provide you with whatever you need. And so it's just that simple, you know. So anyways, that's all I have for now, and it's great get a chance to be here, and
Did you miss it?
I did.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be the Dean of the Oceanside Branch, Dr. Dennis Volpe.
Well, I enjoyed that. It was a nice testimony.
Thank you.
Because it's always an experience when you have the opportunity to talk to people that are highly opinionated without any knowledge. And you know that you have information that can override their opinions, but the problem is they don't believe that there is information that can actually set them straight. And that's where it takes Yahweh to open up somebody's understanding. Now, there's an event that's coming up here that I wanted to talk about that's going to happen here this month. There's going to be an eclipse that is going to occur, and it's going to cut across a certain band across our country as well as probably other places. And I want to talk about that principle of an eclipse for a minute and try to work it in with something else that I want to get to. Now, what you have in the creation, you have our solar system, and Yahweh has set this thing up in a way that it manifests certain aspects of principles that work right within this teaching, within this purpose and plan. Now, this particular eclipse is called a lunar eclipse. And what that means is that the moon, which I believe is 1/8 of the size of the earth plane, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 8 times smaller than the earth, okay, is going to come between the earth and the sun. Now, the sun is over 1,000,000 times larger than the earth. In fact, I've heard this analogy that the earth, if you were to try to understand the size of comparison, would be like the head of a pin next to an orange. That's how big the earth is, the head of a pin, and the orange being, of course, the sun. Now, how do we get an object that's 8 times smaller than the earth to blot out an object that's millions of times larger than the earth? Well, it's all in perspective. So what Yahweh, it depends on where you are. So obviously, being in the earth plane, the earth is in a particular position that from your perspective, that little object will move across the sky, and the sun being 93 million miles away, that object has the ability from your perspective to actually cover the sun. When in reality, it's just, it boggles the mind to think of how large the sun is and how something could blot out the sun. But Yahweh set it up that way. Because from your vantage point in the earth plane, you're trying to struggle with whether you actually believe there's a God. I'm talking about prior to coming down to this teaching. We all struggled with, you know, is there really a God? Some of us say, well, I believe in God. That means that you made up your mind that you think there's a God, but you really don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
You follow?
Yeah.
And there are people that made up their mind that they don't believe there is a God.
Yes.
The agnostics are people that say, well, there might be one and there might not be, but I don't see any proof for it.
Right.
Now, Yahweh is more real than anything that exists in this universe. And Yahweh is far larger than the universe that we live in. And, you know, there was a cartoon one time that my wife cut out of this paper where it showed these fleas. And they were on this back of the dog, the backside of a dog, but it was blown up so that the hairs of the dog looked like stalks, like trees, basically. And the caption underneath, two fleas were talking to each other, and one of them said, "Do you really believe there is a dog?" You follow?
Yeah.
Now, the point is, Yahweh is so real that it's phenomenal that we don't see him,
Right.
don't understand him, and so on. Because, and as the first speaker said, and she did a nice job with it, we live in darkness. Now, let me explain to you how that works. When this lunar eclipse takes place, when the moon goes, and they've got it painted on this chart here, here's the moon, it says, right here, and they've got it up here near the sun on the chart. Not that it actually is in that position in the solar system. But the point is, from Earth's vantage point, looking up at the sun and the moon, it would give the appearance that it can be as large as the sun.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, when this happens in the Earth, and it's going to happen this month, it will cut a swatch of darkness across the Earth plane, and they showed that the path, I think it's going from like Oregon, right on down through the Midwest, down maybe to the Carolinas or something like that. Don't quote me on that exactly. But it's a swatch of darkness. So that area will actually turn dark. And they said that that darkness is going to disrupt certain, I think it was insects, and possibly birds, because of the fact that they're nocturnal in nature. And it will cause them to react like it's nighttime,
Right.
when truthfully it's just a temporary occurrence. Now, what you're seeing is that the moon has the ability, only on a small swatch, but enough to create darkness such that it's actually during the day this darkness is going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's going to appear to those people that are in that as being nighttime.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I want you to go over for a minute. Reba, get me over there in Jeremiah, I think it is, the 31st chapter talks about the moon and its ordinances.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
I want you to get that. Bruce, I want you to get me Genesis, where it talks about the sun and the moon on the fourth day, I believe it was.
Okay.
What do you want, Jeremiah 31:35?
All right, now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to work with the covenants tonight, so I want to make that clear. This particular paragraph that we're reading, or this chapter,
First. Yeah.
picks up that Yahweh is going to bring in a new covenant. You know, I got to do that. Because I realize in order to explain this, I have to give you a brief explanation of these covenants.
True.
So start at 31:31.
Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel.
Now, when the children of Israel, ladies and gentlemen, were gathered around this mountain, and he spoke in these laws, the people said to Moses, tell him whatever he says, we will be obedient, and we will do what he asks.
That's right.
Now, Yahweh, then, taking their willingness, is that by their verb, or their verbally speaking, that they were going to accept what Yahweh gave them, he then made an agreement where he would be their Elohim, they would be his people, and he spoke in a law, basically a lifestyle, and ordinances that they would live according to.
Right.
You understand that?
Right.
Now, let me show you why this was done when it was done. This is 1,500 years prior to the Messiah coming in, and it's 2,500 years from the time of Adam coming out of the Garden of Eden. Right. Now, here's what you got. When Adam was in the Garden of Eden, as painted on this chart here, Yahweh told the man, listen, he said to the man that you can eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of knowledge and of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For in the day you do eat, you will surely die. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't a question of whether he was going to eat it. Right. It's when he eats it, he's going to die. Right. Now, what you're going to find out is this. That when he ate this fruit, Yahweh then said that that he was going to send the man and the woman out of the Garden of Eden. And here's an angel painted here with fire in his hand. And if you notice behind him, you have the sun there. But it's in a stage of setting. Yeah. Meaning that the sun is going down. And what Yahweh set up was to show how the creation works with a purpose. So therefore, Adam, who was the S-O-N, or the son of Yahweh, Elohim, and the S-U-N, which is a figure of Yahshua himself, both sons are coming down together in this, what we call a transgression that took place because of Adam eating of the fruit. Therefore, both sons come down together. Well, now in the fulfillment, when the Messiah comes in, he said, I am the light of the world. I am the light that lighteth every man. Now, when the Messiah died, what you find out is there was an eclipse that took place while he was on the cross, and it became dark from 12 o'clock in the afternoon at the 6th hour to the 9th hour. So in other words, we have darkness take place for 3 hours during the middle of the day, and it was like nighttime. Right. And that is to fulfill that when the sacrifice was offered here, which was the lamb, they were told in the 12th chapter of Exodus to offer it in the evening. Right. That's at nighttime. Therefore, this lamb, that lamb is a figure of Yahshua himself. When they offered this lamb here, it was in the evening. Therefore, in fulfillment, the Messiah has to be offered up. And when he's offered up, the death of this lamb took place at night. So therefore, it has to turn dark here to show that the Messiah is dying in darkness, or what would be called in Genesis, the night. Yahweh called the light day, and the darkness he called night. That's get that for me, Genesis, the 1st chapter. Now follow me, because I decided to break this open for you, break it down, so that you won't be lost if I just jump right to the point I want to make. I want to give you the foundation for people that might not have maybe never heard this before. Go ahead.
Genesis 1 and 5.
Go ahead.
And Elohim called the light day.
Now listen, Yahweh didn't say that the day is 24 hours.
Right.
No,
and told you to get a Timex. And when the hand goes around twice, that's a day. Right. Yahweh didn't say that. He called the light day. Read.
And the darkness he
called
night.
The darkness night. Right. So to Yahweh, light equals day and darkness equals night. Now, we've asked this question, and the next time you go by that sign, I want you to stop at that church and you go and ask those people, because they got answers. Say, now, if the Messiah, if there was 3 days in the death, burial, resurrection of the Messiah, and the Messiah was put on the cross Friday, but resurrected early Sunday morning at basically the crack of dawn, how do you get 3 days in the death, burial, resurrection of the Messiah? You don't have 3 24-hour periods.
Right.
Now, our founder showed us how that there were 3 periods of light and darkness from the time he was put on the cross. Right. And I'm not getting into that tonight because I don't want to take the time. But in other words, those day and night cycles work with this explanation that we're reading in Genesis that Yahweh called the light day and the darkness night. Right. You understand that? Now, another time we will break it open for you and show you how that works if you haven't heard it. But right now, there were 3 periods of light and darkness. I could draw it right out on the blackboard for you. And our founder opened that up to us, and they don't even know that stuff, these theologians. Now, listen. Listen. So what we got is this. We got Yahweh showing forth that the man is coming down as the sun sets. We're moving into, at the course of your day, when the sun goes down, you're now moving into what you call nighttime. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we've got them showing forth that when they're coming down because of this transgression, we are moving into night. And I don't mean nighttime from the standpoint of the sky being dark outside. I'm talking about, in Yahweh's purpose, mankind is going into a state of darkness.
Right.
You understand that? Now, when the Messiah resurrected, you're going to find out that he resurrected right at the crack of dawn.
Mm-hmm.
He has to come up in the fulfillment when the sun rises,
Right.
to show that both suns are coming up together in the resurrection. Just as both suns went down together in the transgression, both suns come up together in the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that?
Yep.
Now look, he didn't come up alone either. Because many that slept in the dust of the earth had to rise on up. And Dr. Kinley put it like this. He said that when the head rises, the body has to follow. You understand that? Now watch. What I want you to realize, this is sunrise here at the resurrection. But the transgression, that was sundown. So from sundown, when the sun goes down during your course of your day, till the next morning when sun rises, we are in what is known as nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
Gets dark, stays dark till early in the morning when sunrise happens. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you call that the night. Now what I want you to see is this. That Israel then was, look, here's your chart. Here's Adam here, right here at this line, Garden of Eden, right? Sun goes down, Adam moves into this antediluvian age here, right? Now, the Messiah comes in and he resurrects here, and then we're moving into the period of day. But what I want you to see is that the Mosaic covenant comes in right into this post-diluvian age here, which is between sundown and sunrise. So the covenant comes in during the period of spiritual nighttime in the purpose. Right?
Right.
Now, Bruce, read that about the sun and where the sun and the moon were created.
1:14.
Go ahead.
And Elohim said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven."
Now here Elohim is telling Moses in the vision, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens. Read.
To divide the day from the night.
We're going to divide the day from the night. Read.
And let them be for signs.
They're going to be for a sign.
And for seasons.
And for
And
seasons.
for days.
And for days. All of this
years.
has a spiritual working in the purpose of Yahweh. Go ahead and read.
And for days and years.
And years, read.
Let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven.
Read.
To give light upon the earth, and it was so.
Read.
And Elohim made 2 great lights.
He made 2 great lights. Read.
The greater light to rule the day.
What's the greater light?
The
sun.
The sun, the S-U-N.
Right.
And what's the, read?
And the lesser light.
And the lesser light to rule the night. Now, what's the lesser light?
The
The
moon.
moon.
The moon. Now, we know the moon doesn't have light. Just like we know that a moon that is an eighth of the size of the earth can't possibly blot out the sun that is millions and millions of times bigger than the moon. Right?
Yep.
But this is all appearance to get across a principle. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So the appearance of the moon blotting out the sun is what you see from your vantage point.
That's right.
And truthfully, we now know from landing on the moon, you follow, bringing back rocks, that they're not luminescent.
Right.
I went to the Smithsonian in '75 in Washington, D.C., and I looked at the moon rocks, and not one of them glowed. There's no light generated by the moon. The moon is simply an object that has the ability to transfer light from the sun in a limited capacity.
Yes.
You understand? You're not going to get blinded by looking at light bouncing off that moon that has come from the sun.
Right.
But if you stare at the sun, and they're warning people during this
Yes, they
eclipse,
are.
that it can blind them.
That's right.
Right.
Not right? They even have special glasses
Right.
that they're giving away, in some cases selling, for people to watch this eclipse.
Yes.
Now what I want you to see is this. The moon is a lesser light that is given for some kind of illumination during the period of nighttime, according to what he just read in Genesis.
That's right.
And you know yourself, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to go camping. You're out there in the woods. If you got a night where the moon isn't throwing a lot of light, let's say there's cloud cover, it's a sliver moon, you know, where there's not a lot of...
Crescent.
You walk around on those paths can be real scary.
Yep.
But you go into a full moon with not a lot of clouds, you know, you got enough light, you can see where you're going.
Yeah. That's right.
Get what I'm saying? Now watch. He just read that, Reeb. Now I want you to go Jeremiah 31:31.
Jeremiah 31:31.
Read.
Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I'll make a new covenant with the house of Israel.
He's going to make a new covenant. Read.
With the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Read.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their
The
fathers.
new one ain't going to be according to the one he made with their fathers. Read.
In the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them. But this shall be the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel
Read.
after those days, saith Yahweh.
Read.
I will write my law in their inward parts.
I'll
and
write
put
my
it
law in their
hearts.
inward parts. That's the law of the Spirit of life that's being written in their inward parts under the new covenant. Read.
And write it in their hearts.
Write it in their hearts.
And will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people.
Read.
And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh.
Read.
For they shall all know me, from the least of them.
Now don't you understand that Yahweh agreed to put within you knowledge? Because nobody's going to have to tell you to know Yahweh now. He said they're all going to know me. And that's what Yahweh wanted, was for them to know him.
Right.
You understand that? So people think church is all about going down there and singing and feeling good and believing in God. But that's not what Yahweh wants.
Honor.
They sang and danced around over here when they came through the Red Sea and
Right.
still sinned and were disinherited in the wilderness.
Right.
So it's not about singing and feeling good. You understand that? He wanted them to know him.
They handle.
And that's what he was going to give them under the new covenant. Keep reading.
For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them,
Read.
saith Yahweh.
Go ahead.
I will forgive their iniquity,
I'll forgive their
and I
iniquity.
will remember their sin no more.
Now listen, Dr. Kinley said this. It's not that Yahweh is going to forget what you did. What he's going to do is wipe out from your remembrance everything you did in this earth plane, so you don't have to go through the rest of eternity with guilt about something you did here, that Yahweh will never bring it back to your recollection.
Hallelujah.
Read.
Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for
Now
a
thus
light,
saith Yahweh that giveth the sun for
a light
what?
by day,
For a light by day. That's quoting Genesis. Read.
and the ordinances
And
of
the
moon,
ordinances of the moon.
and of the stars for a light by night.
Now listen, he called it the ordinances of the moon.
Yeah.
Now that ought to clue you into something, that when Yahweh spoke in this covenant from Mount Sinai, these ordinances are laws,
Right.
were correlative to the moon. Now let's go back to that for a minute. Does the moon have its own light? Does it generate its own light?
No.
It's only a reflection, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that there is no spiritual light in this covenant from Mount Sinai.
Right.
It's simply a reflection of the true light. Just as the moon reflects the light of the sun, and really you say, oh, I just love the moonlight. No, what you like is the real dim sunlight that is being bounced off the moon. You understand that?
Ambient.
Now listen, there's no light in this covenant, ladies and gentlemen.
True.
The new one is going to be full of light.
Yeah.
You understand? You cannot be a part of the light by you participating in the old covenant.
Right.
This covenant, people did things as forms of worship and were still ignorant of their Creator. This is the way our founder put it. He says, now when I was a Christian, he says, I went down to the creek. He said, they baptized me down there at the creek. He said, and I went in the water dry and ignorant, and when they dunked me under and I came up, he said I was wet and ignorant.
Right.
That's what he said. Now what I want you to know is that Yahweh is all about you coming to a knowledge and understanding of Him. Why? Because knowledge is light.
Yeah.
Knowledge is light. It's illumination. It's also really, in reality, consciousness. Do you ever see when somebody all of a sudden catches something and they go, oh, I see the light?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The light is you becoming conscious of something that before you were ignorant of.
That's right.
You understand that? So what I want you to know is under the new covenant, Yahweh is going to bring them into the light, the actual light, that this was only reflecting. This is a reflection. This is not the reality, this covenant back here.
That's right.
And really, I'm moving up a step on you now, because I've been using the covenants. The whole creation you live in is nothing more than a reflection of spiritual reality.
Right.
There's no light in this life other than it reflects something
Correct.
about Yahweh.
Yeah.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Now what I want you to realize is this. You got another mystery in operation. And that mystery wants you to believe that He is the light. Look, 2 Corinthians 11:14.
Yeah.
This mystery right here, His job is to keep you in darkness, not to allow you to see the true light,
That's right.
not, and certainly not for you to be in the light.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that?
Right.
So this is what we read about, what Paul says about Lucifer or Satan. Read.
2 Corinthians 11 and 13
Go
through
ahead.
15. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of the Messiah. And no marvel, for Satan...
Now don't marvel that we got false apostles and false trying to transform themselves into apostles of the Messiah, but no marvel, for Satan himself, read,
is
transformed
into an angel of light.
into an angel of light. The devil will try to make you believe that he is a light body, a light source. You understand that? And that he is the true light. Now listen, back here in the Garden of Eden, when the devil appeared to Eve, we were all taught pretty much in our religious upbringing that the devil was a big snake.
Right.
And that the snake was talking to Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know, I haven't met a woman yet that thinks that a snake is attractive. Right? How many of you say, oh, what a beautiful snake that is?
No.
You follow? And that you're going to believe a snake. People don't realize that when it says the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which when Moses wrote that, he was not trying to say that the devil looked like a snake
Right.
when he appeared to the woman. He was trying to get you to understand the characteristics that the snake reflects or manifests is that it's very, very subtle. A snake, and if you want to know about a snake, snakes, I've seen snakes, grass snakes before, and you look, oh, there's a grass snake, and you go to tell them, you look back and it's gone. You didn't hear it go anywhere.
Yeah.
They can move without making any noise.
Yeah.
They have camouflage kind of outer adornment so that sometimes it's very difficult to even see them.
That's very
Right.
true.
Right? They are subtle in nature that way. Now, it's not that there's nothing satanic about a physical snake. It's a manifestation. Now, we've made statements, oh, he's a wise old fox. Then you think actually that person was a fox?
No,
Or, I mean, literally?
it's an allegory.
Well, why would you think when it says that the serpent was more subtle than he be, that what appeared to Eve was an angelic creature that radiated on the outside light?
Mm-hmm.
You understand that? And there's scripture to back this up. It's over in Ezekiel.
That's right.
Now listen, what this subtle snake did, I'm talking about his nature,
Yeah.
is this is how he deceived the woman. He said, did Yahweh say to you, you shouldn't eat of every tree of the garden? Well, how did he know that?
He heard the commandment.
He heard the commandment that Yahweh gave to the man.
Yep.
And Yahweh, well, see, the problem is poor Yahweh Elohim didn't know that he was there.
Oh, really?
You follow?
Poor guy.
You have to understand that Yahweh Elohim has set up that old serpent right from the beginning. He knows exactly how he's going to react. He knows what buttons to push to make that snake do his work. You understand that? Now listen, when that serpent was talking to this woman, he said, did Yahweh say you should eat of every tree of the garden? Go get that. 3rd chapter. I want to make a point about this because I was thinking about this today. And I want to show you, the whole world is in darkness, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get to that. But I want to show you a little bit about the snake and show you how this old serpent works. In fact, Reba, get me Revelations 12:9. Go ahead, Bruce.
Genesis 3:1.
Go ahead.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field.
He was subtle. That serpent was, you know what subtlety is, some people call it? You know what that is? Subtlety, ladies and gentlemen, is the ability, as we say playing poker, not to show your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody that has a that has a poker face, you know what that term means?
Yeah.
You can't tell by their face what they really got, you know, in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
They try to disguise what they're holding.
Right.
You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
That's subtlety,
Yeah.
and from a standpoint of a game. Now the devil is subtle in that he never lets you never see him coming. If you understand that expression, you
Right.
just don't know what his motive is.
Right.
He knows how to hide his motive. Read.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made.
Read.
And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
He didn't say, what did he say to you?
Right.
He actually repeats what Yahweh
That's
said.
Right.
Read.
And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden,
Mm-hmm.
but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden,
Mm-hmm.
Elohim has said, Ye shall not eat of it,
Mm-hmm.
neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Read.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die.
Stop right there. Read 12:9 of Revelation.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent.
That old serpent. That old. Now, why is he saying that? Because see, that serpent had been back here in the Garden of Eden thousands of years before John says this on the Isle of Patmos. You understand that? And listen, get that. He says we're not ignorant of his devices. I think that's 2 Corinthians 11. No, 2 Corinthians 11, like 6 maybe. 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. Pick it up for me. Go on over there and get where I told you to go. It's in 2 Corinthians 11.
2 Corinthians 2:11.
2:11. There it is. I knew it was 11 something. All right.
7.
Jerry, read that for me.
Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
Look, Paul said we're not ignorant of his devices. In other words, in order for you to be able to pick up the devil and what he's doing, you have to understand how to discern a principle.
Yeah.
Because he's doing the same thing in principle that he's always done, only he's now changing the manifestation. And unless you see the principle, you'll be deceived. Now, let's talk about what he did here. Now, when you were reading over there in Genesis, he asked the woman, and the woman said that we are told if we eat this, we will die.
Right.
What did the serpent
Ye
say?
shall not surely die.
Read.
For Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat thereof,
Now listen to what he's doing. He's telling the woman that Elohim's a liar.
Mm-hmm.
That he wanted to keep this from you, and he knows this, and what he said to you isn't true. He's saying that your creator lies.
Yes.
That's right.
That's what he did back there in the
Yes,
garden.
you did.
And the woman believed him.
Yep.
Right.
You understand that? What do you think he's going to do down at the end?
Same.
Okay.
He's going to call Yahweh, Elohim, and Yahshua a liar.
Right.
Yep. Right.
Same old serpent, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
He hasn't changed.
That's right.
And if you're dumb enough to believe that your creator would lie to you, you're going to die just like that
That's
woman.
right.
That's what he's got people believing.
Yes.
That he lied to us.
Right.
Right.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing he did to this woman.
Yes.
See? And here's why the man was not deceived, but the woman. Because he never at any time believed that Elohim was a liar.
Right.
Yep.
He willingly laid down his life for his bride, and we talked about that Tuesday night in our class. See? And there are people now
Mm-hmm.
that are going to throw out everything that Yahweh Elohim has said in the scriptures,
Mm-hmm.
what Yahshua said, and what our founders said, because they believe that he was
lie.
lying.
Right.
That's right. Never did you know.
And the one that's telling you that is going to look all illuminated,
Yes.
all full of light, knowledge, and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And you know why people will buy that? I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because they don't know Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
If they knew him, they would know his beautiful soul.
Yes.
That he is incapable of lying or
Yes.
deceiving.
That's right.
If they knew him, they would never believe it.
Yeah, that's right.
And when somebody says to me that Dr. Kinley lied, I knew the man. He wasn't capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You understand? He ain't doing nothing different than what he's done from all the way down through.
Yeah.
He just changed the way he implements it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
You'll be lost if you believe that.
That's right.
Because I don't have just faith in Yahshua's salvation. I have faith in the purity of his nature. I have faith in his kindness. And what he said in Ezekiel, he said, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked. But why will you not hear my words and make you a new heart, he said, make you a new spirit. You read that over there. It's in Ezekiel, where they accused him of being unequal,
Yeah.
meaning not fair.
Yeah, that's right.
And he talks about the whole thing. Understand? And people that don't know him, that's the only reason they're going to accept him.
Right.
True. Right.
You understand that?
Yes.
Now listen. This light and darkness that we're talking about, Yahweh has used that in the purpose all the way down through. Now get me over there to Colossians, the 1st chapter. And it's, I don't know, it's somewhere, you know what I'm after,
Yes,
Bruce.
I do.
Yeah.
That's right. Colossians.
I still scratch my head to this day in wide-eyed amazement how people could believe that our founder would ever lie to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hit me. They don't know him.
Yeah.
They didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that? And I'm not talking about they didn't spend any time with him. I'm not talking about that they weren't around him. I'm talking about they didn't know him.
Yeah.
And many are going to come to him at the end, to Yahshua I'm talking about, and say, oh, Master, we hung out together.
Yeah.
Right.
We went to class together. I
Yeah.
sat next to you on the class. I got up and did this for you. And he's going to say, I never knew you, and you never knew me. And really, that's your trial right now. That's what you're all being tested, as to whether you know Yahshua or not. Not whether you have knowledge of information of jots and tittles and scripture, but whether you really knew him. Because all of that we teach here ultimately is to cause you to come to a profound personal knowledge of your
Right.
Creator.
Right.
Yes.
An intimate understanding of that divine nature and recognize the beauty and purity of it, and understand then and that's why when the devil throws this at you, when you have bad stuff happen to you, and everyone's going to have it happen, don't you let the devil tell you that Yahweh's doing this to you because he's punishing you because he doesn't like you. Listen, if you know the purity of the soul, Yahweh doesn't do that. He doesn't punish you by making bad, like Joshua talked about the tower falling on these people, and he asked them, do you think that happened because they were worse sinners than everybody else? He said, I tell you, nay, he said, unless you all repent, you shall in no wise be saved. In other words, they're no worse, you're no better or worse than they are. You understand? And here's really the reality. No matter what befalls you, you deserve it.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget that.
That's right.
Don't you go blaming your creator when stuff happens. Why'd you do this to me? You got, whatever you get is what you got coming anyway. Why don't you just own up to it? And I don't believe, first of all, that Yahweh does bad things to you to punish you because you did something wrong. But I do know this, that sometimes we think he owes us something. Because I come to class. I get on the floor.
Oh, yippee.
He owes me something. He don't owe you squat. And yet he's still kind enough to take care of you, to make sure that you don't lose your way. The truth of the matter is we all got to suffer the things common to man. You follow? And what you got waiting for you after this life, you're going to find out there's nothing you could have done ever to earn the great reward that we're all going to receive at the end of this life. That's why we understand grace. So don't you start letting the devil work you over and tell you that Yahweh don't like you, and why is he being mean to you, and you go to class, and you should have it. Diane's got a new Lexus. How come I don't have it? I go to class too. I'm just using that because it's so stupid. That somebody would think that. That somebody would think that.
It's not new.
You follow? But that's what we do.
It was used.
You follow? That's what the devil tries to do, is prey on your emotions. You got to use the truth, and to your best advantage. This is your whole armor. That Yahweh is just, he's fair, he's a loving Elohim, and he's not mean, and he doesn't do anything. And listen, we all got to be tried anyway. Dr. Kinley used to say this. He said, it's tough, but it's fair.
Right.
Getting through this gospel and serving Yahweh is not an easy thing.
Right.
And whatever befalls us is not easy. But it's fair for what we're going to receive for our troubles. And even Paul, look at what he went through. He talks about how he was beaten with many stripes and whipped and shipwrecked and all these things he went through. And he realized that he was in worse shape before he had that experience on the road to Damascus. Because he would have been lost for all eternity. Whatever he had to go through in this life, he realized was nothing compared to losing his soul.
That's right.
And all he did was thank Yahweh for no matter what befell him. He said, and then my favorite scripture in the Bible is Philippians there, the last chapter. He said, I have learned in whatsoever state I am in, therewith to be content. Because he had a beautiful trust in Yahweh and knew, he looked at the higher things and realized how Yahweh had saved him from the lake of fire and from destruction. And it didn't matter all the stuff he had to go through in the flesh. Understand that? Go ahead and read for me.
It's Colossians 1:13.
All right.
Who hath delivered us from the power of darkness.
Now we've been delivered from the power of darkness. Do you know that during these eclipses that are coming, I told you they had to wear special glasses. Now you know that those special glasses allow you to see the corona of the sun. Because when the moon goes in front of the sun, there is a corona, they call it. It's actually, the word corona means crown.
Correct.
You can't see the crown when you just look up at the sun in the sky, because, well, there you go,
Right on the chart right there.
Right, I realize that. But I want you to see something. Because this one's got kind of like that yellow crown painted is smaller though, but you get the idea. What I want you to know is you can't see it because the sun is so bright that it doesn't allow you to define with your eyes the corona. So when the moon goes in front of it and fills that body of the sun, the crown is now revealed.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Now, what I want you to know is you got to have special glasses for your eyes to be able to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the glasses are the law and the prophets, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they are. They allow you to see the glory of Yahweh. You're not looking at the moon now. You're not looking at the manifestations, but you see the principles and the glory of Yahweh. Mm-hmm. Now, on this chart here, you notice we have both mysteries painted up here on this chart. And one of them is the mystery of righteousness here on the right. We have a woman who is within the tabernacle, and she is clothed about with this tabernacle, and above her head is the sun. Give me Revelations 12:1.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven.
Go ahead.
A woman clothed with the sun.
There was a woman, that's the bride of Yahshua, clothed with the sun. That is to say, the divine nature. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening down here in class. Your soul, when you're created, the book says the creature was created subject to vanity. Now, vanity doesn't mean being conceited. Vanity means empty.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You got nothing when it comes to the spiritual things. You walk in here with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many Rolls Royces you drive. I don't care how successful you've been in business. When you walk in this door, you got nothing. Because Yahweh none of that pales in comparison to the riches that we're going to offer you down here. But what I want you to see is this. You are taken in here, and you are just like that. You remember you read the parable of the Good Samaritan when he found the man all beat up and he was naked and they robbed him. They left him naked, and he clothed him.
Right.
And took him and gave him lodging and took care of him.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what happens when you walk in the door. Yahshua is clothing your soul with his own nature and giving you and sharing with you his riches and putting you within him. So this woman is in this tabernacle here with the sun above her head. Read that.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun.
She's clothed with the sun.
And the moon under her feet.
And the moon was where?
Under her
Under
feet.
her feet. So if you see here, we have to paint it off to the side here, but because the moon also correlates to this cross, this principle here. But the moon, ladies and gentlemen, was under her feet, meaning that she was now above, she had been risen above the flesh. She was no longer ruled by the lesser light of the night.
Right.
She now was above it, and she was in the sun. She was looking at the reality of Yahweh as he actually is and truthfully exists, and the reality of his purpose. And she no longer was in captivity and bondage to this moon. Bruce, hold your finger there. Get Isaiah 60, verse 1 and 2.
Isaiah 60:1. Arise, shine, for
Now
thy
listen,
light is come.
here he says, arise and shine, for your light has come unto you. This is now him prophesying of you being brought under the new covenant. Read.
Thy light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee.
Now the glory of Yahweh is risen up, but that means that you've been a partaker of the Holy Spirit now, or that divine nature. Read.
For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth.
Now darkness is covering the earth, and I'm not talking about the eclipse or even, the sun, the darkness you experience from a natural standpoint. The darkness that's in the earth plane tonight is profound ignorance.
Yes.
And profound lack of consciousness of Yahweh and that he actually exists.
Absolutely.
Read.
And behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness.
Now,
the
gross darkness, what?
The people.
The people. Now, the whole world right now is caught up in darkness. And the world right now is in a worse state of chaos since I've been in class.
Yes.
We've been talking, I've been in this class now for 47 years. We've been talking about things were bad back when I first came in, and it'll just get worse. Well, it's never been as bad as it is now.
That's right.
And I mean in many different ways.
Yeah.
Look, we are on the brink of world war. I'm not talking about just Korea. There's conflicts going on all over the place. We got India and China ready to go at it. You follow? Not to speak of, the problem with ISIS and the problem with, this little group. Now Venezuela. The whole world is in a state. It's a nothing more than a gunpowder waiting for a match.
Yeah.
Powder keg.
Powder keg.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what I want you to realize is, you think that you're not down to some kind of a cataclysmic occurrence? Look, it's gone out on the news now about how even what's being said, and I'm not criticizing or anything about that. Trump had to tell them, you do anything to us, and we're going to wipe you out of existence. But let me tell you something. I think people believe he will push those buttons. He's not lying. And that little guy over there in Korea, I think he's starting to get an idea that nobody wins in this.
Yes.
You understand? Right? But the world is, because everybody wants to be king. I watched this show called Game of Thrones. It's a very entertaining show. It's about all these kingdoms fighting with each other to be the king. That's what it's about. Many of you probably don't watch it, but it's kind of like a medieval
right.
kind of a setting, and all these kingdoms were once united under a king, and his king dies, and all of a sudden the kingdoms all want to be the ruling kingdom, and they're warring with each other. They call it Game of Thrones. It's an entertaining show. But listen, I want you to know that's what this world is.
Right.
The Russians want to be on top. The United States wants to maintain its supremacy. Now Korea wants to be looked at, taken seriously.
Right.
Iran is developing nuclear weapons. The whole world now is in a state of trying to be the supreme.
Yeah.
You follow?
Right.
And things are about to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Yahshua is going to take this thing out. I just want you to know, I'm not making no predictions that it's going to happen next month, or it's going to happen by the 15th of this month or anything like that. I'm just telling you that we know that the whole world's in a state of calamity right now, and at any moment,
That's right.
something cataclysmic could be happening. We could sit here, and next thing you know, be incinerated instantly by a missile. And you were in here, we're not listening to the news.
Right.
You think I'm worried about that?
Hell no.
I've often thought, it would be a nice change of pace to all of a sudden be taken out instantaneously by a missile. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not worried about it in the slightest.
Right.
I go to bed at night and I sleep the same as I did the night before, because I know that Yahshua's got the whole thing under control, and he'll take me out when my job is done. And nobody's going to take me out until then. I remember Dr. Kinley talking about, you follow, that back when the draft was going on and guys were going to Vietnam, he said, now listen, Nixon was the president then. And Dr. Kinley said, now Nixon isn't going to take any of my boys anywhere unless he sees me about it first.
Yep.
I remember him saying that in 1971.
Yep.
You follow? We just got to realize who's running the show. Yahshua's running the show. Not Dr. Kinley, Yahshua.
Right.
And there's nothing going to happen other than what he has purposed. Nothing happens outside of the scope of the purpose. You understand? And I just want you to know that this one here, you look at this side of the chart, he's got this woman in a state of darkness. She is enclosed or couched within darkness. So the reason why we painted a tabernacle here is to illustrate this point, that both mysteries are under the, both of them are following the pattern. One of them is doing it in light, the other one in darkness. Because the pattern is the purpose. And you cannot have anything that operates outside of the scope of the purpose. In fact, the purpose, in fact, is spirit law. You understand that? Even the devil is following spirit law in that he's doing exactly what Yahweh's purpose for him to do. Now, this bride of the devil, which are the souls of the lost, they have a reverse situation from the bride of Yahshua. This one has under her feet, the sun eclipsed.
Right.
And above her head is the moon, a full moon. Which means she's walking in darkness, no conscious realization of Yahweh, how he actually is and how his purpose operates, and thinking that they're walking by light when they're walking by moonlight, as I told you, which is a reflection. and that it is not the true light. It's the sun that's the true light, and the devil has tried to blot out this light, but he can never blot out the crown of Yahweh, which is the glory of Yahweh, that will not be blotted out even by the moon. That crown will come, ladies and gentlemen, and when that moon passes away from that sun, then we see the glory of the sun is made manifest. Because in the end, Yahweh's, Peter writes that Yahweh will melt the elements with fervent heat. Now I want you to know that the moon is going to be incinerated by the sun. Even in science, they tell you that the end of the solar system will happen when the sun has now blown up because it's ready to supernova, and it'll incinerate all these planets. It'll swallow them up and just burn them away. Well, Dr. Killing talked about that when Yahshua appears at the end of this age in all of his glory, that the creation will dissolve in his presence.
Yes. Yes.
You understand that? You have no idea what that real superincorporeal body is, ladies and gentlemen. Even the universe can't stay in the presence of that great, great power. And I want you to know that you've been saved from destruction. Get that in Colossians.
Colossians 1 and 13. Who hath delivered us from the power
He has delivered us from the power of what?
darkness.
Did you know that darkness has power?
Yes.
When you are, if you are blind, let's say, and somebody reaches for your hand and says, come on, I'll lead you. You don't know where you're going, you'll take that hand, right? Well, you don't know because you're blind if the person that's leading you is blind.
Right.
True.
And that's what happened with every one of us in our lives. The blind lead the blind.
Right.
We were led by the blind, and we were too blind to know that the leaders that were leading us were blind.
Right.
And that goes for your ministers. See? Even these political leaders, I don't care what party you belong to. There's only one party you should belong to, and it's a monarchy. It's the party of Yahshua the Messiah.
Right.
You understand it? He's the King of Kings, and that's the true government that I support. You understand that? But I want you to know that these people are being led, you understand, by both religious and political leaders that are blind as they can be. They don't know a thing about Yahweh as he actually is and truthfully exists, or his purpose and plan. You don't realize you truly are set apart from the whole world. You've been sanctified by this teaching. You don't think, I'm listening to Linda up here talking about being around the family, and I understand this experience because I've had it my own self. Being around people that are starting to talk religion, you know what's coming out of their mouth is unadulterated ignorance. Right? Now, what I want you to know is you have to understand, you live in a different world than they do.
Yes.
You are of a world different than the rest of the world, whether you realize, you might be a friendly person, you might not mind chit-chat. No, Bruce, we tell him he's got the gift of gab. He can talk to anybody and get a conversation going. That's just his gift. But Bruce is still living in a different world. Because what his consciousness is and realization of reality is completely different than what those people think reality is. Now listen, we read the last few classes, we read the 15th chapter of John last class, we worked with the 14th chapter. Yahshua prayed the Father that in the 17th chapter, that he does not take the apostles out of the world.
Right.
You follow? Because they had a job to do. The job was to be a witness. He said they are in the world, but not of the world. And that's where we are. We are going to stay in this world until the last trump is sounded. And I'm not talking about President Trump. I'm talking about the last gospel is preached. You understand that? You follow? And so therefore, we are in this world, but we're not of the world. Our job, all of us in this room and those that are watching, is to try to garner as many souls as we can to Yahshua. Now, you don't know who's going to be a receiver of the gospel. None of us have that knowledge. Right. Our job is to make the gospel available, to encourage people. Right. And then Yahshua, and Linda said that tonight. You can talk to them. She said on the street corner, Dr. Kinley didn't say that. Don't preach to them on the street corner. He said, just invite them down and get them to class where they have to sit down and be quiet and listen. You understand that? And that's what we try to do, is hope that somebody that we get to come down here, that Yahshua will quicken them, or open up their understanding while they're sitting in the chair. You understand that? Because at this last prophetic second, we don't want to see anybody lose their soul. And that goes for people that have gone astray in this teaching.
Yes.
I would lay down my life for them if I thought that something I could do could cause a change to take place.
I hear you.
I bear no personal ill will against any of those people. In fact, I love those people dearly.
I know.
Yes.
But the truth is, we know that we can't do anything but what Yahshua himself does. And we just make our body a sacrifice. As Paul said, present your body a living sacrifice. So what we do is we present our body, whether it be on the floor, whether it be in a circumstance, like Linda got into that circumstance, and then we wait for the signals, and you'll know how to discern signals that Yahweh has given you, of one to say something, one to lay back. You understand that? We just follow the cloud, and when we do that, the truth is that our intention is hoping that we can bring somebody out of the power of darkness into the light, because we know the love and the joy and the peace of dwelling in this light. These people in darkness are under a strong delusion. They think they have peace. They think they have joy, but they don't realize that what they're experiencing is a facade. It's an illusion. And so all I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is the world right now is in a state of complete chaos. We have people running around. You don't know who's going to kill who next. Running people over. Shooting people that they've never met before because they got mad because they got fired from a job. So you kill people that had nothing to do with that. The world is crazy.
Yes.
It's insanity. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it's all happening. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Yahshua had Michael cast out those demonic angels out of heaven. A third of the heavenly host was cast out. And that's more than there are stars in the universe. We have demonic spirits incarnating in the hearts and minds of men, ruling their thoughts, their behavior, and their judgments.
That's right.
And that's what's happening. The mystery of iniquity is rising up for this reason. He knows he has but a short time.
That's right.
And that ought to be, for you, a sign and a witness that if any time since you've been coming down these lectures, you've been told to get your house in order and to get serious about this teaching, this is the time.
Yes.
And Dr. Kinley told us that before he took off the flesh. He said, get your house in order because you're not long behind. And we think, well, that was 76 and now it's 17. You think this is long? My life has been a freaking vapor.
That's right.
Bruce and I talk about when we were kids playing together when we were 8 years old, and we'd say, oh my God, how did our life just zip gone?
Right.
That is a long time. Time is an illusion anyway. Even physicists will tell you that. You haven't got long, ladies and gentlemen. Something is going to break in this world. Whatever you got your hopes set on for that dream vacation, that car that you've been saving up for, whatever it is, let it go. I'm not saying you can't like going on vacation or like a car, but don't invest your heart and soul into it.
Yes.
You follow? Invest it in this teaching, because this teaching is going to pay big.
Right.
You understand that? This is the Powerball down here.
Right.
Not what people are going out there hoping to win 370 million. You understand? Our reward is priceless.
That's
right.
Priceless. And Dr. Kinley said this. He said, your soul is the most valuable thing that you possess. You understand? And he said there's going to come a time when you're going to be glad that you knew this old man. So I say this to all of you. Stay in class. Keep tuning in. When you feel yourself feeling down and, I don't feel very spiritual, that's not the time to not watch tonight because I'm not feeling up. You need to watch class. You don't know what Yahweh's going to bring out in a speaker that will pull you right out of that state. Don't second guess it. See, when I hear people who haven't been watching class or going to class because they're depressed, Dr. Kinley said this is the hospital. When you're sick, you come down here so that we can help you and fix you. He said that once you get help and fixed, you got to keep coming back for checkups, regular checkups. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to the moderator. I hope something I said tonight resonated and made some sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just another thing to tell you that our class will be this Monday instead of Tuesday. And we ask that you please at this time stand for the doxology, which is taken from the last 2 verses of the book of Jude. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling, and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to the only wise Elohim our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah our Sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. Let us all say,
Hallelujah.
It's a wrap.